So I got a request to show how the Star Knight portal effect was made in Unreal Engine 5. So let's do it. First we're gonna jump into Blender. So basically I just want to go through how the scene is set up, or how the mesh is set up. So you have the outer dome, and we can take a quick look at the UV for this. It's basically as projected from view from the top, so it covers most of the area, and I can use whatever texture I want to display on there. And then we have the viewport, which is basically masking out where you should be able to see the outer dome, and it's really not more complex than that. You have the pillars here, they are split into two, so you have the outer part and the inner part, and that's because we're also doing a custom depth check, so you want to have one part on the inside and one part on the outside. So the first thing you want to do when you go into Unreal is to open the project settings, search for custom stencil, and then make sure the option for custom depth stencil pass is set to enable with stencil. So the next part we want to look at is some specific settings for the mesh inside Unreal. The first one we're going to start with is the actual viewport. As you can see here, there are three settings here. First one is render in main pass. We don't need that because we only want to render that as a stencil mask, so we turn that one off. Second one is custom depth paths, with the third one being the value for the stencil, which I choose to set to 100. You can basically set whatever you want here. After that, we can look at the settings for the dome, which is basically where you will be projecting your star sky. And there are two settings you need for this one, and it's render in custom depth pass and the stencil value, but for this one you can set it to 101 instead. We can now look at the buffer visualization and choose the custom stencil, and then you should have a result where the inner roof should be a stencil of 100 and the outer dome 101. Now we can start looking at the material for the actual dome, and there are some settings here we need to take care of as well. First one being opacity mask clip value, set that to something like -1, else I noticed there was a bug where the stencil value wouldn't get calculated correctly. The second one you want to check is the disable depth test. That means that this mesh will be able to render in front of other objects, which is good when we're looking through the viewport. And after that, you also want to enable allow custom depth rights. I can also mention here, of course, that the material domain should be set to surface, the blend mode should be set to translucent, and the shading model should be set to unlit. It doesn't have to be unlit, but that works better for me in this case. And now we can finally get to the actual details of the material. So first of all, this is just a texture, and here we have the actual details. This material function just uses a custom stencil that it masks to divide by 255, which is the number of stencil, and then the input into that will give you a mask. So for this one we use 100, which is the portal material, and if we plug that, you can see that since the depth test is disabled, you get a wonky feeling, and that's why we have to add this part, which takes the custom depth minus and it subtracts the scene depth, and then it saturates it, and then you multiply it, and then you get a mask from anything that is in front of the portal, so it can disable the portal showing through there as well. And there you have the effect. So now that all of that is done, you can do whatever you want with it. Add objects inside the portal, move them around, have them in their own space. They won't be visible outside with a bit of tweaking. And another cool thing you can do is open portals to your other dimension. You can take whatever mesh you want and just add 100 stencil value and it'll be fine. So I'm gonna add a link to the notes required for this in the description below. So if you just wanna copy paste everything, yeah, check that out. And if you have any questions, just ask them in the comments and I'll try to answer as well as I can. And have a good time.